Hello, welcome to the channel. So we've got this beautiful Masco MA25N PA amp. This is late 40s, early 50s I think. Absolutely beautiful thing and in beautiful condition. And this belongs to a customer who is a friend of Kieran's who had his Masco modded, and we're going to turn this one into a guitar amplifier. Now this one has got a little bit more on than the last one. We've got 3 mic inputs and a phono, and we've got a full treble and bass on this one. Got the on-off switch on the front there. So let's have a look at the back. So you can see, just bring it a bit closer to the camera. So you can see on the back here we've got this plate here that says fuse on there, so we need to look at that. The speaker sockets, I don't know what they call these, you'll know in the States. Gordon, what do we call these sockets? These look like a tube socket almost. We've got a voltage select. Is that a voltage? Oh, that's impedance selector, sorry, on there, and that looks like we loosened that screw out to change that, so we'll have to look at that. These need replacing for 1/4" jack sockets. Now on the side here, if we just spin him round and have a look at the side. So on the side here, these are the connectors for the microphone channels, and the phono's on a 1/4" jack plug there, it's jack socket. So we need to replace these as well. Now I've already screwed the top off of this because when it was delivered I had to check to make sure all the tubes were intact, because this has been posted down to me. So we can take the top off. You can't see a deal more there, we're going to have to turn it round. So I'm just going to spin it back round. So if we look, you can see now that this is beautifully made. The transformers are slightly off kilter because it's obviously been dropped and they've bent up the brackets there, and you can see I can get the screwdriver under that one, which shows, and that's just leaning into there. And if you look, you probably can't see, but if you look on here you can see some scratching where that's obviously gone into there. Not done any damage, it's just marked it slightly, so we probably just need to bend those down and just straighten those up. And that one, if you look, that one's leaning to the side on that one, and you can see again. So let's have a look at the tube complement. We've got a 5V4G rectifier tube, 2 6L6Gs metal, the metal tubes, not glass ones, you can see there, so very early those. And we've got a 6 SC7 metal one there. We've got a glass 6J7. We've got another 6SC7, and we've got 3 6J7s. All those are metal tubes. So quite an array of tubes in here, and obviously they're quite old as well. But I'm sure they'll be okay. Now we are going to, as I say, we're going to mod this into a guitar amp, so you know the J7s may have to go. So if we look, we can see that plate on the back there. We just come down, just go in a little more. I can't go in too much with this camera so it goes out of focus. So you can see here we've got this sound Masco systems for commercial use. We've got a model number there, we've got the volts, the cycles, the watts that it draws, and there's a code number, serial number on there. So we're going to run this amp up just to make sure everything's okay, just to find out what we're actually dealing with. Now I've got a feeling that there may be some wax capacitors in this, because that one's wax on there, and given the age of this, now I've also had to build a bit of a frame to fit this amplifier onto, because what we've got to be careful of is damaging this front. We can't just tip this thing upside down and stand it on the bench, or that's just all going to get bent and ruined. Right, there we go. So you can see I've made a bit of a frame there, and I've raised it up as well, and you can see there, so the front there just has got all this space so it won't get damaged. So we need to get this plate off the top, don't we? Then we can have a look inside. Well, a lot of them are paper caps. We have got a couple of waxes there. Well, we've got some wax caps over there, but these Some wax, yeah, there is some, yeah, quite a few wax caps. We've got some dry electrolytics. No. So, yes, behold, totally original. I don't see anything in here at a glance that's ever been touched. Got a lovely waft coming out of it as well. So we've got some resistors stood on their ends here. Not sure what they're doing. So I might have to just trace that out and have a look. We have got a schematic for this amp. There's actually some good documentation on radiomuseum.org. So I have downloaded those, just need to print them out. But yes, that really does look, that's really something else. A work of art. Let's just check this power cable. No ground on this. So I'm presuming we have a across the line capacitor somewhere. Although I can't see that at a glance, but actually that may be it there. Is that it? No, it's not. No. So we need to be a bit careful with this because, as I say, with having no ground on it. So we'll look at that plug. Yeah, and it's one of those either or either plugs there, so you can, it'll go any way around. It's also a rubber power cable, which I don't like, as I mentioned before. Right, we better see if we can get it powered up then. Just see what we can get out of it. If anything. Right, so before we power this up or do anything, we're going to check the fuses and we're going to measure the primary on the transformer. Now, I've just took the top off that fuse cover and look what I've found. These fuses are covered in tin foil. That is a very bad sign. Why do people do this? The fuse that's in it, look at the thickness of that. My days. That doesn't look good. This amp also has a bit of a smell to it. Just look at that. And they've been in there a considerable amount of time. That fuse is blown to, I don't know whether that's, I can still see the wire in it, but dearie me. Right, we better test the primary winding, hadn't we? So if we find a really high reading, then I'm afraid it's not looking good. So let's see. I'll pop that there where you can see it. Here we go then, let's have a test. Very low resistance that is on there. I'm sure that, yeah, that there. 2.68 ohms. And 2.5, so that's looking okay. We better get some fuses in there, haven't we? Dearie me, the things people do. Right, I've got I'm going to put a couple of 500 milliamp fuses in it, and I'm going to run it up on the current limiter. I've got the rectifier tube out, so I've took that out before I did any testing. Do you know, is that catching on there? I'm going to leave that open for the time being. I don't like that. Don't look how close that is to those fuses. I don't like the look of that. I'm going to leave that open. Right, so we're all set up and ready to rule. We've got this meter monitor in the AC. And I'm going to switch on now. So we've got a 15 watt bulb in there, and I'm only getting 14 volts off of that transformer. I'd expect to see a bit more than that. It is going up. I'm just going to quickly drop in another bulb. Right, that has gone up now. We've got 72 volts there. Now the bulbs have gone dim. I have to be careful with it. This has not been powered up for a long time. You can tell it hasn't been powered up for a considerable amount of time. And when when you find this tin foil over the fuses and things, and fuses like that in there, I mean, that thing must be about 15 amps. Look at it. Why would you put that in there? Right, so we have now got 75 volts going in, and I've got 65 watts of, and I've got the lights on there. Well, one of the lights is on the display. That'll be the filament. So the transformer measured okay, and the bulb there, obviously having that 15 watt bulb in, is quite small. So now I've got 75 volts there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 40 out. I'm going to put a 25 in there, so we've got 40 watts. What's that giving us? That's giving us about 70. But what we got now, let's take that out. Yeah, that's going right down again. Try 25 watt bulb. Right, do you look at the difference between that and 10 watts? There we go. So I think that's what we'll use. We'll start off with this 25 watt bulb in there. Let's get the rectifier tube back in. And you see, this is why you need the current limiter. Just imagine if you just switch that on, and these were shorting out on here or something, and those fuses just wouldn't blow, and next thing it's burnt that transformer out. That transformer's looking okay now, but that was a bit worrying to start off with. Right, let's switch off and let's get this rectifier tube in. Tin foil is not for putting round fuses. It's for wrapping round your chicken breast before you put it in the oven. Right, rectifier tube's in. We've got a 25 watt bulb in the current limiter. We've got some 500 milliamp fuses in there, which would be too low for that normally, but they won't blow while the current limiter's on, and it's just a little bit of extra protection. Right, let's switch on. Right, so that 25 watt bulb now is quite bright. You can see the voltage going up. We've got nothing. We've got some movement on there. Yes, we've got a bit of movement. Well, we've got some sound from the speakers. So we've got 41 volts on the DC now. That's off the plate of the one of the 6L6s. So we're just going to leave it there for a minute. So the bulb's doing its job, which is what we need it to do. And we're just going to let that run for a minute. So the voltage is settled at 40 volts now, which is just under half. Remember, this amp's 110 volts. a faint deep hum, but yeah, you see we've got something going on there. It's coming back to life, but I think we're going to let those capacitors sit for a while. $25 watt bulb, I'd say that's about right. 40 volts on the AC now, so that's looking good. So you can see the DC is creeping up now, very slightly, and we're just going to let that rise, because that'll be our capacitors reforming. Not that we're going to be keeping these capacitors because they are old, but we just want to make sure everything runs on this amplifier. Oh, look at that. My days. We're in business. Well, we aren't now. We are on one of those channels. And these six J7s, you see we've got this a capacitor here on each one, because they tend to leak DC onto the grids, if I remember. Tell me if that's correct, Gooden, but I seem to think it is. So yeah, we've got so you can see the DC is creeping up now. So that's still creeping up, 49. So I'm going to put the 15 in now. There we go. You can hear the amp coming up now. That sounded. Turn the volumes down. So yes, we've got a bit of capacitance hum, but not a lot. You can just hear that. You might not be able to hear it on the camera. It's not massive, but then we've not got all the voltage on it yet. So let's see which of these inputs now. We need to be careful with this because it's not grounded. So only one channel working there. Voltage still creeping up, so we're up to 83 volts now. We can see that's beginning to drop now, so more tubes must be conducting more efficiently. Now channel 2 started to work as we're getting more voltage. So that 6J7 there just needed a bit more juice sooner before he conducted. Third one's still not kicked in. That's looking good. It's coming back to life. I'm really looking forward to doing this amp. This is a gorgeous thing, and it'll be one hell of a project. Get 2 out of 3. It's looking good. See if the tone can. Yeah. treble doesn't seem to work, but the bass does. 15 watt, and we'll put in a 40. Now that's looking better. So we've got 65 watts of current limiting now, and that's coming up. You can see the plate voltage is going up there. Bulbs are getting dimmer now. All's looking good. Let's see if number 3 is working, shall we? Is he turned up? Number 3. Come in, number 3, your time is up. I think he's probably just needs the tube reseating on him. But yes, it runs. So now the voltage has dropped. We've got 55 volts on here now. You can see that's actually dropped back down again now the tubes have started to conduct more. So I mean, there's a fair amount of tubes in this, so it's drawing a fair amount of current if you think of the filaments. And what we got, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we've got 9 tubes in here. So there's a lot of current being drawn. 124 volts on the DC. That's all looking good. Let's just turn the volumes down. Yeah, the cap, I mean, there's a faint hum in the background, so the caps are tired, but then I've heard many an amp that sounded like that, and it's gone on for years. But the treble control's not working very well. But then, given the age of these caps, not a surprise really. Right, I've fastened a ground onto it, but you just can't see it. Just in this, I've tagged a ground on, and I've plugged the guitar into the phono socket. It does sound a bit sick. Yeah, that does sound a bit sick. A little bit sick. So I'm just going to drop one of these 40s out, and I'm going to put a 60 in there now. Just to give it a little, I think that's about as far as we go in though. So that's brought the plate voltage up to 147, and it's dropping again now, so we're getting a bit more conductance. It's leveling out 146-ish, and we've got 67 volts AC now on here. tap into one of those mic inputs, but I think we can safely say that the caps are shot completely and utterly, and you can hear the humming is much stronger now as we've got more more voltage on there. But what a great tool, and you know, there's so much we can do with this amp. It's but it does want a lot of capacitors. So there we go. It runs. There's a bit of a heartbeat moment when we saw the tin foil, but again, a test of the transformers showed that there were no shorts on there. You know, if we'd have got a really high reading into the megs, you know, half a meg, even more, we'd have guessed that primary was blown, but it's not. It doesn't. It's certainly running very smoothly. Just get, and the transformer's cold, so yeah, everything's fine. This thing draws a lot of current, and which is why, you know, the bulbs are holding that down, because, you know, 145 on the plate voltage. Well, you know, I'd expect to see, you know, maybe nearly 4. I don't know what's maximum on a 6L6G. I can't remember, but I'd expect to see above 300 volts on this. So, you know, given there's only 145 volts, we've got a lot of current limit in there, but that's fine. It's protecting the amp while we're running it up. I don't want to go any further with it now. That I know it runs, and that's fine, so I'm going to leave it at that. So we finished up, we've run it up, we've got 67 volts on the primary, on the AC, and we've got 145 volt plate voltage. That tells me enough. So what are the plans for this amp then? You know, we've got some ideas. Well, mic 1 and mic 2, I've decided to make the same as Kieran's amp that we did, the other Masco, where we blend the channels. And mic 3 is to make something a bit different, something more cleaner. Now those 6J7s will probably have to go. There's not a lot of voltage on them. I mean, they're working okay, but they're not the ideal thing for guitar, really. Not for what we want to get this amp to sound like. So they're probably going to go, and they'll be replaced with 6SL7s. We'll use the Russian ones. But the mic 3, we might leave that as a pentode and just have that as a clean channel, and the others where we can drive them. Now this amp's got the phono input as well, which we just put the guitar through there for a while. We can completely remove that phono channel and use the phono tone, the phono control as a master volume. So we can have a master, we'll need a different part, but we'll use that and have a master volume on this amp. If you remember, the last Masco it kind of had 2 tone controls, and one of those was the phono, so we used it as a master volume. So I think we're going to do that on this one as well. Of course, the other thing with this amp is this amp's got a full tone stack. It's got bass and treble, so you know, we may have to mod that tone stack. That was me turning the bass. We may have to mod that tone stack, we may not, until, you know, we've got. But the first thing to do with this amp really is recap the power supply, get so we can actually run it off the current limiter. Just switch off now. Get it so we can run it off the current limiter, and then once we've done that, we can then focus on these inputs, changing these tubes, and we'll rewire mics 1 and mics 2 with 6SL7. So we'll have a couple of stages. We'll study the schematic as well to see where we're going with that. So mics, the 6SJ7, you can see mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, 3 6J7s there. So we've got 3 of those 6J7s, and then we've got another 6J7 here, which is probably the phono. And we've got a tube here. Actually, we've got another 2 tubes there, haven't we? Another 3 tubes there. So we need, yeah, one of those that we expect to be the phase inverter. So we need to look at the schematic really. I'm just speculating here. But those three tubes there, I think we should change for 6SL7s. I'm going to test the output tubes and the rectifier tube to make sure they're good. And then we'll see from there. These other tubes we'll just decide. I mean, I would imagine one of these tubes is for this phono channel, so we'll be removing that. So that gives us some options as well, extra stages and so on. Right, so that'll do it for this one. Sorry we couldn't have got a bit more guitar playing out of this and whatnot, but as I say, with these caps it's just not worth the risk to increase this voltage anymore. So thanks for watching, you all take care, and I'll see you all in another video. Bye bye for now.